Pretty thighs, shawty, she a dime. Demon girl, evil eyes, she be telling lies. Slim waist,
80 to 90% of our hepatitis liver patients are suffering from hepatitis B.
Okay, so once again, we talked about hepatitis B. So for any listeners out there who need a review, what is hepatitis B and what makes hepatitis B so problematic?
Okay. I'll show you some slides. This is actually hepatitis B virus under electron microscopy. And it is actually a hexagonal virus. Here, this is a complete virus, and with a surface and a so-called core. And these are excessive, the empty ones are actually excessive surface antigen, which is now used for vaccine of the babies, of the newborn babies. And the next slide, actually. Only very few slides. It's one of the tiniest DNA viruses in the whole world. It's a tiny virus, but because it's got so many so-called overlapping frames, it produces a lot of viral particles and viral antigens. And just to make it simple, this is a surface antigen, which is, as I've mentioned, the thing that I now use to make vaccines. And I think you are going to ask me the next question is, why is it is so common in the Chinese population? Of the roughly 257 million chronic hepatitis B subjects in the world, unfortunately, 3/4 of them are Chinese. The reason is actually very simple. Not that simple, okay. Hepatitis B virus is probably a very old virus, several thousand years old, unlike hepatitis C and HIV. HIV is very new, as you probably know. Hepatitis B virus therefore infects the ancient races, mostly the Chinese and the Africans. And we transmit to each other mostly through birth or within the first 1 or 2 years of birth, mostly from the mother, but also from the father. Close contact during childhood would make the child become a chronic carrier. Whereas actually, if you contact hepatitis B right now through casual unprotected sex, I'm not saying you, okay, people, through unprotected sex, adults, through unprotected sex contacts hepatitis B, the chances of them become a chronic carrier is very low. It's only in childhood, when either the moment of birth or within the first 2 years of birth, that you become a chronic carrier. And this is why the Chinese and the Africans have the majority of the hepatitis B carriers. And China having larger populations, therefore, the majority are actually Chinese. And it's not very common in the Caucasian countries. And this is the world area incidence of children under 5 years old of high incidence of hepatitis B. Here you see the dark blue one, Africa, has very high incidence, and also China, and also actually Australia, also the Aborigines, they also have high incidence. So these are all the ancient races. And just the final slide, and as you can see, actually, this is recently published in 2018. Because of hepatitis B vaccine, the younger population has almost no hepatitis B, whereas the older population above the age of 20 are up to 7 to 8% of them are actually chronic carriers. So I hope I've made myself understandable. Have I?
Yes.